Dear students of English literature, today our topic is The Merchant of Venice. In this lecture 13, English version lecture, students, we are going to study Act 4, Scene First. This is M. Rehman and you are attending ORAC classes of English language. Students, to continue your syllabus, please subscribe our channel so that it may be easy for you to understand and complete your syllabus. Please subscribe our channel ORAC classes of English language. Students, before I start Act 4 Scene First, I would like to make you know that it's very important to know about the place, characters and contents related to the act and scene. Now the place is the court of the Duke in Venice and the characters are Antonio, Bassanio, Graciano, Salerio and Duke also is there. That is not written here, but Duke is also there. Contents: the Duke asks if Antonio is ready. Antonio thanks Duke. Shylock stays rigid. He rejects the request of the Duke for mercy. Now students, let's understand it in detail. As you know, this scene opens in the court of the Duke, and this scene is the most important, powerful and moving scene, the Merchant of Venice. This scene opens in the court of Duke of Venice. We see the Duke enters followed by some eminent persons, and these eminent persons are Antonio, Bassanio, Graciano, Salerio and some others. The Duke first asks Antonio if he is ready. Antonio says he is. The Duke is in the sympathy with noble Antonio because he is a noble and gentleman. Antonio, who has fallen in the trap led by cunning and cruel Shylock, it is known to the Duke. He says that he is sorry for Antonio. He means Duke says to Antonio, who has come to answer an opponent who is inhuman and has no pity. I mean to say, Duke has sympathy with Antonio. At this time, Shylock isn't there. Antonio thanks the Duke for the pains he has taken to make Shylock become more lenient. But Antonio knows that his adversary is a stone-hearted man, he is Shylock. So he is now ready to face his fury with patience. Antonio tells the Duke that he will face Shylock's charges in a calm and quiet manner. Then the Duke calls for Shylock. Shylock comes. The Duke makes an appeal to Shylock's good sense. He says that he thinks that after all his show of cruelty and ill will, Shylock will now show some mercy. The Duke says he hopes that Shylock will not demand the pound of flesh of Antonio. He would rather be kind to remit a part of the payment of 3,000 ducats because he knows that Antonio has suffered great losses. The Jew, however, is bent upon having his pound of flesh. He tells the Duke that he has put his case before him. He also says that he has taken a vow to get the penalty according to the bond. If the Duke fails to do justice, it would bring God's curse on his kingdom. Students, this dialogue is a very important dialogue when it is tried to make Shylock lenient and kind. He curses the Duke too. The Duke says Shylock may ask him why he wants a pound of flesh for the 3,000 ducats. But Shylock will not answer this question. He is not ready to say anything, and he is adamant to take a pound of Antonio's flesh. Shylock says that demand for 1 pound of Antonio's flesh is only a whim of his. But he has every right to take the bond, and he wanted to satisfy his own satisfaction, his own desire. He gives so many logics before the court. He says if a rat troubles his house, he can spend 10,000 ducats to get such a rat killed. So now Antonio is a rat here and the Shylock earned to get killed. for 3000 ducats. He says that different people have different likes and dislikes, so as with Shylock. Everyone loves or hates a thing according to his nature. Shylock means to say that he has a natural hatred for Antonio and he can show no mercy to him. Him means Antonio. Bassanio says something, but the clever Jew snubs him, saying that he will not please him by answering his question. He is not ready to give any answer to the question of Antonio. Students, it is a very serious concern here. The Duke asks him how he can accept mercy when he himself shows no mercy. The Jew says that he is doing nothing. The Duke and others have their slaves. Shylock means to say that now Antonio is his slave now, for whom he has paid 3000 ducats. Now he has every right to use him the way he likes. It means Antonio is going to be used by Shylock, and Shylock has every right to use him. He cannot be forced to show mercy. If if his claim is denied by the Duke, it will be a shame on the law and justice of Venice. Students, in this way you can see that Shylock is trying to say harsh words to the Duke before the court. The Duke then declares that he will dismiss the court for the day if Dr. Valerio, the learned doctor whom he has called, doesn't come to the court. Salerio tells the Duke that outside a messenger is standing with the letters from Doctor from Poda. The Duke asked them to let the letters come to him. Bassanio in the meantime asked Antonio to be cheerful. He says he would sacrifice everything for him. Now Bassanio realizes his real friendship and he is very sympathetic to him. Antonio is now resigned to his fate, as I have already mentioned in the character of the Antonio, that Antonio is a person of weakness. He says that he is the weakest kind of fruit. Student, this is a very important dialogue in the play, of fruit which must drop earliest to the ground. Antonio says the Bassanio that Bassanio should live and prepare an epitaph. Epitaph means details and verses inscribed on a piece of stone put on the grave of the dead one of him when he is dead. Now Nerissa enters in the dress of a lawyer's clerk. She gives a letter to the Duke. While the Duke reads the letter, Bassanio asks Shylock why he is sharpening his knife. Shylock very maliciously replies that he is sharpening the knife to cut the penalty. Penalty means a pound of flesh from Antonio's body, from the bankrupt one, that is Antonio. Gratiano is equally bitter. He tells the cruel Jew that he is sharpening the knife not on his soul. Soul means, students, pay attention, S-O-L-E, not S-O-L-E. Means he is trying to mock at the activities of Shylock, but on his soul, means he is preparing his knife not to cut his soul but his soul. Now soul means spirit and second soul means shoe. To laugh at Shylock, he is saying so, that he is just damning his soul by sharpening his knife. Students, the Duke now has finished reading the letter, and meanwhile this discussion was continued. He announces that the learned Dr. Valerio has recommended a learned lawyer to him. Now Portia comes in the disguise as a lawyer. She as a lawyer is there, asks Antonio about the bond. He confesses having signed the bond. Then Portia makes a moving appeal to Shylock to be merciful. Students, now I would like to make you recall that the poem Mercy written by Shakespeare is the excerpt from this play, and Portia here explains the qualities of mercy here, and that poem is used in this act 4 scene 1 at this point. Mercy is the noblest and the godlike quality, but she tells that the Jew that The court must give a sentence against Antonio. If he does not show mercy to him, Shylock says, he will face the consequences of his deeds. He wants justice from the court. Shylock is trying to compel everybody to give him justice because he had a uh, legal bond. Portia asks if Antonio isn't able to pay his debt. Bassanio tells the lawyer that he offered 10 times the amount of the debt, but he refused to accept. He asks the lawyer to set aside the law and do a little wrong to do a great good. Students, now we can say that Bassanio is a man of practical mind. That's why he is trying to make Portia understand, because he doesn't know that she is Portia and she thinks him a lawyer. The lawyer accepts money. The lawyer Portia says that it would be against the spirit of law if she takes such a money and if she accepts this force. So she doesn't accept money instead of a pound of a flesh, as stated in the bond. As stated, students, you are getting in the bond, would mean setting up a bad precedent in the law, means bad example in the law of Venice. When Shylock hears this, he jumps out of joy. He calls Portia a great judge. He says, a Daniel come to the judgment. In this way, he agrees. He means Shylock agrees with Portia. Portia then calls for the bond. The Jew very gladly offers her bond. Portia says that Antonio has forfeited his bond. She asks Antonio to lay his chest open. She says it is right of Shylock to cut 1 pound of flesh from near Antonio's heart. That is a very dangerous point. Portia asks if the balance is ready to weigh 1 pound of flesh. Shylock very gladly says that it is there. Then the lawyer Portia asks Shylock to have some surgeon by his side so that the surgeon may address the wound and prevent Antonio from bleeding to death. Now, the cruel Jew asks if it is stated in the bond that he must do so. Portia says it is not in the bond really, but it is good to do so much for charity because mercy has some meaning in itself. The Jew still says that it is not in the bond. He will not do it. Portia then asks Antonio to say whether he wants to say. Antonio bids a touching farewell to Bassanio because he thinks that he is going to die and asks him to remember him. Bassanio very sincerely says that he will sacrifice his life, his wife, and everything for him. He would not let Antonio die in any way. But as the Jew moves forward to cut Antonio's flesh, Portia asks him to stop. She tells him that his bond gives him only 1 pound of flesh according to the bond, but no blood. So he should not shed even a single drop of blood. Now tables are turned, everything is changed, situations are changed on Shylock. Gratiano now cries aloud and repeats Shylock's words, O upright judge, O upright judge, Mark Jew, O learned judge. Shylock now says that he is ready to accept the money he had given to Antonio because he came to know that he could do nothing now, because that was not written in the bond. It was written in the bond only to take a pound of flesh but not the blood. Now Shylock was helpless. Bassanio is happy now. Bassanio is ready and glad to give him that much money. But now the lawyer Portia stops him in doing so. Portia says that the Jew shall have nothing but the penalty. When the Jew is all shocked and stunned, Portia tells him that now according to the law of Venice, he is charged of conspiring to murder a citizen. So now his life depends only on the mercy of the Duke. Students, now this is a very more important point that Portia clarifies the importance of mercy. Now then Shylock was requested, but now there is a request for Shylock's mercy and Shylock is in danger. According to this very law of Venice, half of the property will go to the citizen he was trying to kill. Now students, it's a very important part what was decided in the court, that Shylock was charged to conspire a murder of a citizen. That's why his half of the property would go to the citizen he was trying to kill, and the second half will go to the state. The Duke grants pardon to the Jew so that he may feel what mercy means, so that Shylock may come to know what the mercy is. The Duke further says that that the state won't take his property but reduce to it a fine if he shows humanity. Antonio says that half of Shylock's property would be held in trust, you know, would be held in trust. It will be given to Shylock's daughter and son-in-law Lorenzo after Shylock's death. Shylock is utterly defeated now, shocked and stunned he is. He thinks that it is better to die than to fulfill these conditions that are stated in the code. Antonio puts one more condition there. He says that Shylock should become a Christian and give everything in writing. The Jew is utterly defeated and he agrees to these conditions. He leaves the court saying that he is not well. He will sign everything stated in the court and will present if everything present to him is presented to him. Now Bassanio offers 3,000 ducats to the lawyer who saved his friend's life, but the lawyer asked for Bassanio. You know, students, this lawyer is Portia here. Uh, Bassanio's ring means, she refused to take the money, but she wants to take the ring from Bassanio, and it was very difficult to give the ring from Bassanio because he had already a promise to Portia that he would not part with the ring. Bassanio shows his inability to part with the ring now. The lawyer goes out, but then Antonio persuades Bassanio to give his ring to the lawyer. Bassanio sends Gratiano to overtake the lawyer in the street and give him that ring. Students, because now Bassanio is thinking that the act of this lawyer is very important, so his personal life is not so important as the fees of the lawyer. So students, I hope you have gone through this lecture very well and you have understood this lecture very well. So please, this is the end of the act 4 scene first. Now we will go through act 4 scene second. Students, please subscribe our channel ORAC Classes of English Language and continue to watch all the lectures that are related to your syllabus. Please share, like and comment to us. Assignments are on our Instagram and you can see it in the description box. Thanks.